So I'm very excited to have the first speaker of this blog, Misa, who's been working at Nordeus on the redesign of Top 11. As you know, Top 11 is the most popular sports games out there, with 12 million monthly active users and around 5 million daily active users, has had a tremendous growth. And they're going through the redesigning of that game, and Misa will tell us exactly what decisions have they made and what were these decisions based on. Thank you so much, Misa. Welcome.
Hi everyone, welcome to the talk, Redesigning the most popular online sports game across platforms. My name is Misa DAMJANIC. I'm a game designer at Nordeus. I hope at least some of you heard about us. And the game I'm going to talk about today is Top 11. Top 11 initially launched in May 2010. It's an online football manager. And as you can see over here, this is the initial version, the one that was released in 2010. It wasn't the most beautiful game out there, but its core loop really resonated well with our users. So they continued playing it. We constantly added new features. We iterated, changed a lot of things, and at this time, Top 11, at least the desktop version, looks something like this. Basically, this is the home screen. You have your squad, training options, fixtures, competitions, transfers, all the stuff that you can imagine having available for your sports team. When we released the second version of Top 11, this is the one that you're currently looking at, around a month later, we released our first mobile client. So this is the initial iOS version. And again, we constantly iterated, added new features, improved stuff, and at the moment it looks something like this. Now, we consider ourselves as a mobile-first company, but that is a bit ironic because not all features that are present in the desktop version are available on our mobile versions. And the main reason is having a completely different user interface on desktop version and on mobile platforms. So we asked ourselves, how do we make the UI more consistent? Now, Top 11 is a somewhat complex game, so just tackling this issue was a bit of a challenge. So what we decided to do was dissect the problem into smaller components. So we initially started with something with a foundation for which we're going to use to build other features. And the first thing that we tackled was navigation. Now, what I'm about to show you is still work in progress. I'm not announcing any new version released today or tomorrow or anytime soon, but these are our ideas, prototypes, things that we tested and tried, and they seem to work really good. So, as I said, the first thing is improving navigation. Where do you put it? How do users interact with it? Should it be visible? Should it collapse? Does it need to resize and different things? So we looked what others are doing. This is the Facebook application, mobile application. And as you can see in the top left corner, this is how the user actually interacts with the navigation. By clicking on it, menu is displayed. I'm sure that a lot of you actually did this since Facebook is a really popular application. But then we continued looking, and this is Gmail, this is Spotify, Netflix, radio, Path, a lot of different applications are basically doing the same thing. You can see the pattern in the top left corner. Now, if you ever wondered why exactly is that position selected for the menu button, this might help you. If you hold your phone with your right hand, and if you interact with the application with your thumb, the easy region is the one where users mostly interact with, and you can do it without a problem. Hard region, especially on new Galaxy phones and large Android devices, is really hard to reach with just one finger. So putting the menu button over there prevents the user from accidentally interacting with it. Another thing is all of the applications that I mentioned have a lot of content that the user interacts with. So there's no need to interact with the menu that often. I'm about to show you the current Top 11. This is how things work at the moment. So you can see the main navigation on the bottom part of the screen. And for example, if the user opens the squad screen, you get something like this. You have training, you have fixtures, competitions, and so on. So basically, just by selecting the button on the bottom part of the screen, the user moves to a different part of the game. On a mobile client, things are a bit more chaotic. So you have the main navigation that is visible on the home screen. And this is a short clip. You can scroll left and right to select the screen that you wish to interact with, and then you basically drill down. Whenever you select a different option, you go down the hierarchy of screens that are visible, and you have the back button on the bottom left corner that allows you to go back to the main screen. Now, this isn't optimal. This isn't actually really good navigation pattern because we checked some numbers, and around 60% of all screens are visited by a user in a single session. So just visiting 60% of all of these features requires quite some time, going to a feature, going back, scrolling, and so on and so on. So we tried to make something that will work with both mobile clients and our desktop clients. So we ended up with something like this. This is just a low-end wireframe. We did the same thing that others are doing. We put the main navigation button in the upper left corner, and the user can easily interact with it just by pressing navigation is revealed. Now, this is the difference between mobile and desktop clients. On desktop client, we want to make the navigation visible at all times because it is a bit of a trouble always moving your mouse to the upper left corner then selecting them. I mean, we would have the same problem that we currently have on our mobile platforms. But on touch devices that allow user interaction with their fingers, we decided to optimize things by allowing the user to swipe from left edge to the screen to the right in order to show the navigation. So by holding the tablet device, for example, with your both hands, you can just use your left thumb to display the navigation. But then we continued thinking of how to improve the navigation, and we decided to embrace multi-touch. So we decided to do something like this. By using two fingers and swiping up or down, you can browse the navigation even if it's not visible, so you can move from one screen to another without a problem. So when we settled with navigation, the next thing we wanted to see how to improve is the information that's always visible, so something that we can call status information. In current top 11, we have a header that's full of different data that is visible at all times. So you can see it here. In the top left corner, you can see my name, my level, league position, and one part of in-game currencies. The middle part is the next match information, something that is really important to our users. And at the end, you can see information about the season, day of the season, other in-app currencies, and information about the next training. On a mobile, we have a bit less of information. So what I mentioned earlier, but in a much more compact way presented to our users, and all of our currencies are now on the bottom part of the screen. So we ask ourselves, what do our users actually need? And as it turned out, they don't need that many information visible at all times. So again, this is what it looks like at this time. The first thing that was really easy to get rid of was the user's name. It was initially put there in order to connect the user with the game to make them feel more at home when they log in, to know that this is their account actually. But we strongly believe that just having your club name visible in the home screen when you log into the game is more than enough. The next thing that was that can safely be removed is the training information. When we launched Top 11, we redesigned the training functionality completely. So we wanted to show it to the world that you can train your players now. So we put it in the header, made it visible at all times. But as it turns out, almost no one clicks on that part of the screen. Regarding the other information, manager level and link position, this stuff is important. Our users want to see that, but they don't need to see it at all times. So one of our ideas is to move that information to a home screen, to a welcome screen, because this information changes perhaps a couple times during a day, but mostly every couple of days. So the user will still be able to see this, but not as often as previously. Same thing goes for season and day of the season. The last thing, the biggest actually issue, was the next match information. All of our users said that they really like having this visible at all times, but then we checked the usage patterns, and it turns out that having this information when you log in allows you to have an overview of what's going on throughout the day, but you don't need to see this information at all times. It's just a lot of background noise that's visible on each screen. So we ended up with something like this. You have your in-app currencies on the right part of the screen. You have the name of the current screen on the left. You have, again, the menu navigation button over there. And everything you see below actually depends on each screen. So this is, for example, from squad screen. We created a pattern of having tabs in the middle part of the screen. And if a feature of a game needs more tabs, you just add them over there. But by doing all of this, we came across a problem. There is a document called 10 usability heuristics for user interface design, and we actually broken one of it called visibility of system status. Basically, the system should always keep the user informed about what's going on. And by removing the information about the next match, we broke this one. The user now not able to see when the next match is going to be held. So we tried to fix this by adding notifications. And again, this is just a wireframe. We're still not sure how to do it, what's the best way this time. But what we expect is having a regular notifications, sticky notifications, and other things. But by adding this kind of information, it will be much easier for users to know what's going on. So when we settle on navigation and status information, we continued discussing look and feel of our application. So we wanted to have like a standard pattern that would go, that would be used in all screens in top 11. So our designers did a lot of different designs, and this is the initial one that looks a lot like current top 11. Current top 11 is a blue-themed game, so blue color is still dominant. Then they continued working, and this is a glassy, transparent one. This is a grungy-looking one, and a light blue theme. So we had a vote, and we decided that this would probably be the best way to go forward. So our designers continued iterating on it and ended up with something a bit more polished and a bit more professional. Now, as you can see, the green color is the dominant color in this screen, unlike the blue color that was previously used in top 11. And as it turns out, there is a research called the impact of web page text background color combinations on readability, quite a lengthy paper, and this is one of the things that told us that we are on the right way. Basically, blues and greens are more pleasant than reds and yellows. And top 11 is already a blue game, so going with the green color shouldn't pose that much of a problem. There is another research called readability of websites with various foreground background color combinations, font types, and word styles. So the research actually tried to see which colors work when it comes to readability of data. And as you can probably see, black on white is the best actual color combination. So having black text on white background, it's the fastest way for users to read the information. But having black and white text poses two problems. First of all, it doesn't look that good, especially in a game having black and white text. And the second thing, if you're playing on your mobile device at night when all the lights are off, the white color will just blind you during the night. So we settled with something a bit less radical. That's black on gray. Again, it's really, really readable, but it looks a bit better. And again, this is how it looks at the end. You can see the black text on the light gray background. So the next thing we did was approach our most used feature, our most complex one actually, and that's the squad screen, the one that you just see here. And it had a lot of clutter. There had a lot of things going on at all times, and our new users were kind of afraid of just doing anything on that screen because it was really, really complex. So basically, there's a thing called Hicks law. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. Basically, it says the more stuff you present to the users, it will take them more time to actually do what they want. You can see a graph saying that, I guess, a bit easier. And in current top 11, there are a lot of things going on. This is the current squad screen. You have your list of players on the left, their positions in the field on the right, and then you have a lot of different things on the corner of the screens. So first of all, there are two tabs on top, squad information. If you go to information, you now get a second level navigation, active tactics, predefined tactics, So basically this, and then the third thing, even though it looks like a tab, it's actually a pop-up. So that's not really good. Next, you have a drop-down on the left part of the screen that basically interacts just with the first tab, even though it's visible at all times. You have general info, for example, or selection views, so different views for your list of your players. On the right part of the screen, again, we have sub-tabs, this time vertically aligned. And the first thing that you saw was the pitch to the actual players. The second one are order screens. You can consider them settings. And the next three are basically player selections. So we had three completely different things in the same, occupying the same part of the screen. So at the end, we saw a lot of problems, a lot of usability problems in squad screen. So we decided to optimize it. I'll address these issues one by one. So first of all, instead of having 2 tabs, we decided to have 3 different tabs. The drop-down that I mentioned earlier on the left part, it worked. Users didn't have a lot of problems with it, but we still decided to make it a bit better. The idea was to put information into context. So first of all, we analyzed what users actually wanted to see, and this is like the minimum information that users want to see every time during their every visit to the squad screen. But then again, we tried to put more information into context, so we decided to allow the users to select more information by just swiping to the right and opening the first tab. So you still know which player is positioned which part of the list. Next is the second drop-down on the right part of the screen. Unfortunately, I didn't have a high fidelity mock-up to show you, but we managed to put all of the information on the actual pitch, and it works much, much better than it did before. The settings, the orders screen, are now a tab for itself, because this information is really important to our users. And the other 5 tabs now have a place of their own. Basically, our users on average change the settings once or twice every season, so that's once or twice every 28 days. So we hid that information from regular usage. It's on the back side of the field. I'm not sure if there's an animation that does that really cool, but it's not working in Keynote for some reason. And all of those 5 things that I mentioned are now placed over here. So my advice would be to focus on the important, make the obvious stuff as obvious as possible, make the things that users actually want to interact with prominent, and hide everything else. You don't have to remove it, but just make sure that it doesn't frighten your new users. So basically, there's a quick conclusion. We started with something like this. Then we decided to tackle the navigation issues, and ended up with something like this. So navigation button in the upper left corner, secondary navigation visible at all times in the center of the screen. Next, we decided to tackle header information, and ended up with a minimum functionality that is required by our users. And at the end, we decided to redo the most popular screen in top 11, that's the squad screen, and ended up with something like this. So when everything settles in, it should look something like this. Now, I hope you'll find this information useful. If you ever decide to do a redesign, you can use the same core steps. So basically, do the fundamentals as navigation and status information first, and then continue iterating on each feature one by one. So that's about it. If you have any questions, now's the time.
Thank you. Thank you, Misha.
Yeah.
From the audience. I heard from the grapevine that they want a promo code.
I think I have a few promo cards, so see you later on.
Perfect. Any questions? No? All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much, Misha.
Thank you for having me.